summer of 1932, Franklin D. Roosevelt, governor of New York, was nominated as the presidential candidate of the Democratic Party. In his acceptance speech, Roosevelt addressed the promise of the Great Depression and promised, "I pledge you, I pledge myself to a New Deal for the American people." In the election that took place in the fall of 1932, Roosevelt won by a landslide. Under the presidency of Franklin D. Roosevelt, the New Deal, a series of domestic programs, were enacted in the United States. Roosevelt drew much of his inspiration for the New Deal from the writings of British economist John Maynard Keynes, who believed that a government's deficit spending could prime the economic pump and jumpstart the economy. Roosevelt's basic philosophy of Keynesian economics manifested itself in what became known as the 3 R's of relief, recovery, and reform. Relief stands for an immediate action taken to halt the economy's deterioration, recovery for pump priming temporary programs to restart the flow of consumer demand, and lastly, reform for permanent programs to avoid another depression and to insure the citizens against economic disasters. FDR's creation of new agencies to deal with the Depression became known as the alphabet soup agencies. There were some immediate effects of the New Deal and some long-lasting effects. Through the effects of the Depression, Americans recognized that social and economic problems required national political solutions and a national political responsibility. People began to expect the government to act when something happened. Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal may not have achieved its goal of delivering the United States out of the Depression, but it changed Americans' view of their national government. A Supreme Court Justice, John Clark, told FDR, "You have put a new face upon the social and political life of our country." President Roosevelt increased the president's power and transferred power from Wall Street to the nation's capital, especially the White House. More than any other early 20th century presidents, Roosevelt proposed bills and programs for Congress to consider instead of waiting for Congress to act. As well as increasing the president's power, Roosevelt also expanded the federal government. Because of the New Deal, the federal government became directly responsible for people's well-being in a way that it had not been before. People came to see the federal government, not their state or local governments, as the protector of their welfare. The federal government became more active in the daily lives of Americans than ever before. The most striking change in American thought from the Depression was the abandonment of the doctrine of laissez-faire. The once cherished principle was now largely discarded during the Depression era, and almost every New Deal program contradicted the foundations of laissez-faire economics. Moreover, socially, the New Deal rescued the American farmers and aided African Americans more than any other government had done since the end of the Civil War. Under Roosevelt's administration, the national government was now supporting farmers, unemployed, and managing natural resources. Disadvantaged interest groups now had the same ear of the government that in the past was only in the grasp of big businesses. The decade of the 1930s brought life into a troubled labor movement through programs within Roosevelt's New Deal. It assisted organized labor in becoming a viable political and economic interest group. The Wagner Act helped give unions a dynamic voice in the American society. Also, the government laws eliminated sweatshops and deterred child labor. Laws enforcing work hour standards and wages as well as working conditions were all achievements of the union movement, which still today is a solid backer of the Democratic Party. The most significant gain in labor was the New Deal's support of labor's rights of collective bargaining. Whatever the case, union labor would earn a voice, and today, union labor remains a powerful political force. The farm economy had been devastated with overproduction, overexpansion, and falling prices for their crops. The passage of the Agricultural Adjustment Act began the large-scale farmer subsidies that would mold the agricultural sector of the American economy to what it is today. African Americans in some respects benefited from the New Deal. Though still suffering from discrimination and segregation, under the New Deal, blacks were given more within the programs of the New Deal than any administration before. Though much progress was yet to be made, these initial efforts would foster the first steps towards the modern-day civil rights movement. The significance of the New Deal is that it instituted stabilizers that have been successful in preventing another depression. The Securities and Exchange Commission, established to supervise the stock market, is today a foundation of the American financial system. The Glass-Steagall Banking Act gave increased powers to the Federal Reserve to alter interest rates and limit speculative loans, therefore increasing its effectiveness in implementing monetary policy. Finally, the creation of the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation significantly lowered the number of bank failures and aided in restoring Americans' confidence in the banking system. The first Republican administration after the Depression in the 1950s under Dwight Eisenhower did not turn back the reforms of the New Deal. Moreover, the New Deal and FDR's legislation influenced Kennedy's New Frontier Plan and LBJ's Great Society. Agencies like the Public Works Administration, PWA, the Works Progress Administration, WPA, and the Civilian Conservation Corps, CCC, created jobs and in the process built many structures and landmarks still visible today. The top 5 public works projects are: number 5, the Lincoln Tunnel; number 4, Overseas Highway; number 3, Great Smoky Mountain National Park; number 2, Hoover Dam; and finally, number 1, Grand Coulee Dam. Several of FDR's New Deal programs continue to help Americans today. Some of the more important programs that still exist offer the following benefits and protections. Number 1, a national pension system. The Social Security system pays out old age pensions and has been expanded to include aid to other groups. It is funded through taxes on employers and employees. Number 2, oversight of labor practices. Created by the Wagner Act, the National Labor Relations Board oversees labor unions. It also investigates disputes between management and labor. Number 3, agricultural price supports. This program pays farmers to raise crops for domestic use rather than export. To receive payments, farmers must agree to limit the space they devote to certain crops. Lastly, number 4, protection for savings. After the bank holiday of 1933, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, FDIC, was created. The FDIC insures bank deposits up to $100,000. It replaces the deposits of individuals if banks close. Still today, no political party aspiring to gain high office dares to repeal them.